dos, tres. Hey there, good afternoon. It is Camilo Gonzalez here, and today, along with my classmates Karen Díaz, Yornado Machado, Fabián Varon, and Jesús Martínez, we are going to be talking a bit about ellipsis and Meronymy. So let's begin with this. Well, let's talk about ellipsis. When talking about ellipsis, we have that Machado states that ellipsis is the omission of elements normally required by the grammar, which is that the speaker writer assumes that are obvious from the context, and therefore there's no need to be raised again. And basically what we have here is that ellipsis is the omission of some words. And these words are not necessarily but mainly known head words. This is omitting information, omitting nouns. Basically, to not write the noun in a sentence. When talking about types of ellipsis, we need to have in mind that there are three different types. We have the nominal ellipsis, the verbal ellipsis, and the clausal ellipsis. So, talking about the nominal ellipsis, we have here that it involves the omission of a noun head word, as I said before. A noun head word is the principal noun, the main noun, basically the most important noun in the sentence, or the only one. For example, when we talk about apples, I have a sentence here. Sebastian liked the green apple. I prefer the red. There's no need to write again apple because of the context. We know that we're talking about apples. So in this sentence, it is shown a nominal ellipsis because the noun apple involves the omission of the head noun. So it is omitted on the second clause due to the obvious context, and there's no need to be mentioned again. It also happens with a lot of different phrases or a lot of different sentences. She liked the green tiles. I like the blue. She liked the red hat. I like the black one. So basically, ellipsis is to omit information, to omit nouns.
Now we are going to talk about another important type of ellipsis that it is used in the spoken and written speech. In this case, we are going to talk about the verbal ellipsis that is used in some type of context to avoid the repetition or the use of soft elements in some clauses and interactions. But let's remind a little bit what is ellipsis about. Ellipsis is to be understood as a way to avoid the repetition or the redundance of some elements during the speech. In this case, ellipses have a directly connection with the individual clauses and the utterances. So that's why it is important to be involved about what is happening in the speech. In this case, it is important to be aware of the context that surround all the writing of the text or the speech that we are going talking about. So in this case, let's put you in some type of examples to understand this type of ellipsis. The first one is a coin that is avoid the use of some elements in the speech, so we replace everything with an auxiliary verb that could be assumed by the author and the reader meanwhile you are reading the text or meanwhile you are hearing the conversation in this case. For example, let's imagine that in this case we have a conversation between two people. The A1 did say, will Samantha be waiting? Yes, she will be, or yes, she will. So it is assumed that she will be waiting, so it is not necessary to say that yes, she will be waiting, because it is assumed in the context that we are hearing, that we are reading, that Samantha is going to be waiting. So in the way we use and we practice these types of ellipses, it could be more naturally exposed in the text or in the discourse in this case. The other example that we have is the contrasting, that is to use some auxiliaries at the end of some expression but it will be assumed that auxiliary will change, and that auxiliary change is the one who are going to give the answer about the context where we are going talking. So in this case, however, when contrasting, there is an auxiliary change in the sentence. As an example, we have, has Camilo returned from Venezuela? No, but one day he will. So what we do with this example is to express the contrast between the two types of auxiliary that is exposed in the both sentences. The first one it is the has that is involved, and the other one is will. So both of them reminds that the context is happening in that moment, but at the same time they are talking about the future. So it has and it remains a possibility that Camilo could be returned one day from Venezuela in this case. So if you read the context, it is assumed what is happening surround the conversation, and it's not necessary to mention again the other that he will be returning from Venezuela one day. It's just assuming in the context, and it's contrasted by the both type.
Hello. Now we're going to talk about the clausal ellipsis. So a clause is like a phrase. It's a group of words. But unlike a phrase, a clause is pretty complete. A clause is a group of words that contains both a subject and a predicate. So for example, Charlie runs, there is a subject, there is a predicate, and it's a clause. Charlie eats a shoe, subject, predicate, it's a clause. So it means basically that to understand a clausal ellipsis, we must know first what is a clause. Alright, well, now a clausal ellipsis. Well, the clausal ellipsis represents the omission of part of the clause, or all of it. For example, the subject pronoun element is frequently omitted, especially in spoken text. Such ellipsis is often associated with questions and responses in dialogues. It is similar to the verbal ellipsis, instead that clausal ellipsis is external to the verb itself, affecting other elements in the structure of the clause. So let's make an example. The clause has two-part structure consisting of modal and proposition. On the sentence, the Duke was going to plant a row of poplars in the park. The Duke was is the modal, and the propositional is the rest of the sentence. So basically or typically, modal ellipsis occurs in responses to a WH questions, such as what, where, when, or did, does, or do. What were they doing? Holding hands. The usual type of non-finite dependent clause is simply a clause with modal ellipsis. Typically, propositional ellipsis occurs in responses to statements and yes or no questions, where the subject is presupposed by a reference item. The plane has landed? Has it? Has the plane landed? Yes, it has. Now let's talk about the no ellipsis of single elements. It means that, it is not possible in English to say, has she taken her medicine? She has taken. No. Either way, we must reply with a full non-elliptical clause, or we must omit both her medicine and the lexical verb take or do as substitution. She has taken her medicine, or she has done. Alright. Now other type of clausal ellipsis, the question-answer. The question-answer sequence is a standard pattern in language, and the cohesive relation between them has its own characteristic, grammatical properties. An observation by a speaker may be followed by an observation by another speaker that is related to it in a cohesive type. This is called rejoinder. A rejoinder can be direct response or indirect response. A direct response as in yes or no question and WH question. Has John arrived? Yes, he has. When did John arrive? Yesterday. And now, the final one, the question answer. An indirect response can be one which comments on the question, how did they break in? I will show you how. Is it Tuesday today? I don't know. Or one which denies its relevance. Why didn't you tell John? I did. When did they cancel the booking? Did they? Alright. And there's other ways of clausal ellipsis. But just to recap the clausal ellipsis itself, it depends of the question, because we're omitting the response. And this kind of ellipsis occurs on the regular conversation most of the times when we are trying to omit a response or a propositional that is already on just the clause.
Okay, so now let's talk about meronymy. In semantic, meronymy is a sense of relationship based on the notion of inclusion, which describes a part-whole relationship between lexical items. In other words, a meronymy is a word that denotes a constituent part or a member of something. For example, an apple is a meronymy of an apple tree, because the apple belongs to the apple tree. And both terms share a relationship that we call part-to-whole relationship, or meronymy. So, the opposite of a meronymy is a holonymy, that is the whole, in this case, the apple tree. In other case, we could find it as an X, a letter X, and the meronyms with a letter Y. There are two types of meronymy. The first is the continuous, necessary meronymy. That means that the part and the whole constitutes an inseparable or continuous whole. For example, eyes and nose are meronyms that belongs to a face that is categorized as the whole because it includes different lexical items that in this case are eyes and nose. We could see in a better way in the diagram. The other type is the functional, that are when the different lexical idioms, so the meronyms, are detachable from the whole. They are not required to be together. For example, a cushion chair. Why? Because there are chairs without cushions, and there are cushions without chairs. So they don't have to be together as was in the phrase. In a more analytic way, we have to take into account the context, because not all the idioms, the lexical idioms that we have about something, are meronyms in the same situation. An example is the hand. The hand in this case is the whole part, the holonym. So when we want to talk about a finger is a good example of a metonym of a hand. But also the flesh is a metonym of a hand. But both the finger and the flesh are not co-meronyms. So they cannot be in the same context. Why? Because one is functional, the finger, and the other is material. They not share the same context when we are talking about a hand. As a final information, we have to know that the meronymy could be used as a technique to understand through mental diagrams based on the part-to-whole relationship the general meaning that we want to understand. So many times it's not necessary to read the whole or the holonym to know that we are talking about it. Just you just we need to read the metonyms to know that we are talking about uh, to a specific whole. And that's all about this topic.
Alright, well, now it's your turn to do some exercise in regards of ellipses. Let's see the first sentence. What can we omit here? My cat is blue, and my sister's car is blue too. Well, the expression that we can omit in this sentence is going to be the word blue. My car is blue, and my sister's car too. We know that the color that his sister's car is blue because it's expressed at the first sentence, and it's not a requirement to say that again. The second sentence, what word was omitted? Harry is working this morning, and Martin is this evening. Alright, the word that it was omitted is working. We know that Martin is working as well. It's implicit at the first sentence. And now the final exercise. What word was omitted? If you go tonight, I will tomorrow. The word that was omitted is go. Well, it's go. So it means if you go tonight, I will go tomorrow.
Well, now it's your turn to apply meronyms. 1. List some meronyms of the following items: camera, the United States of America, orchestra, bicycle, and classroom. List at least 3 meronyms. 2. For each of the following words, provide a meronym that fits the definition. You have the words tree, car, and book, and the definition of each one. You also have a meronym as an example. Please add 1 or 2 more meronyms. Good luck. Bye bye. Thank you.